Good morning, good morning, good morning, everybody. It is Saturday morning, what is it? The 29th or something? Anyway, of July. The 31st, thank you. It is the 31st of July. As you can see, yes, as you can well see, I have my daughter Samantha with me. But before we begin, before we go anywhere, I'd first of all like to say good morning to my spirit guide Grey Eagle, who is actually at this moment standing between the two of us. I'd like to say good morning to Chris. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning, Rosemary. Good morning, Samantha. Hi, everyone.
And should I say good morning to you? No, we already said good morning. So, Samantha, would you like to say good morning to everybody?
I just said good morning.
Oh,
good morning.
All right. So we thought for story time this week, that, so many of you have been inquiring about Samantha. Many of you know, but for those of you who don't, Samantha is joining our team. She is going to be taking consultations. No, for those of you who are thinking, another medium, and oh golly, no, she is not a spiritual medium. She is, I suppose I would call her an intuitive. She is, well, never mind what she is for now. We'll tell you all of that later on, when she'll tell you all of that later on, when she talks to you. But I'm going to give you a little heads up. So we are going to tell stories. We have at least, we have a few stories. We thought you might like to hear what it's like to grow up with someone like myself. So our stories, plural, this morning are going to be centering around some of Samantha's experiences as a child and growing up and as an adult. Have you had any experiences?
I just thought of another story actually that we should start with.
Oh, all right. Well, you could. I'm going to let Samantha, begin this. Start the ball rolling in a few minutes. But we thought that you might like to hear what is it like to grow up with someone like myself, and is it really awful? I do remember, I think I can tell this because this is not really a story, but I do remember Samantha appearing, I think she might have been 10 or 11 years old, appearing in the kitchen, and I was in the kitchen preparing breakfast, and I looked at her and I said, did you clean your teeth? And
That's
she...
what I was thinking.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Is that what you were thinking of starting with?
Start, do it.
Okay. Well, why don't you tell it then? You finish.
You started it, so you finished.
Okay. Sorry about that. I do remember when she came into the kitchen and I said, did you clean your teeth? And she said, she hit the head down a bit. She looked at me and she said, yes. And my father had written across the top of her head, above her head, a big N-O. So I looked at her and I said, are you sure you cleaned your teeth? And she hung her head and she said, no. And she went running back upstairs. And it has to be awful, I have to say. It has to be awful for the child of someone like me, because there aren't too many things you can get away with. But maybe she'll tell you. But maybe, yes, exactly. But maybe she will tell you differently. Maybe she will tell you of the things that she did get away with that I had no clue about, because I'm sure that there are some of those as well.
I'm never telling those stories.
Anyway, so all right then. Also, just to give you a heads up, as we shall do the story time as we always do, and after the story time, you will have an opportunity to ask questions or to make comments, which we love. Please make sure you put hashtag Rosemary Altea before your question. Please, if you have a question for Samantha, you can put hashtag Samantha or whatever you want, if you want to direct the question to Samantha. So you will have an opportunity to ask her questions or to make comments or say something to her, whatever it is you like. So we are here together, joined together, almost, not quite, but almost at the hip. And so, are you ready?
Ready.
Are you sitting comfortably? Are you all sitting comfortably? Then we shall begin. Once upon a time, as all good stories must begin. Okay, so which story shall we start with? Because I've taken the other story away from you. Which one do you want to start with?
I thought we were doing it in this order.
No, not necessarily. So, I shall start with the first story. Samantha, you can chip in, okay? Do you want to chip in? Okay, so I remember, and I might have told you this story before, so this is going to be a fairly brief story. For those of you who may have heard it before, bear with me. So once upon a time, a long, long time ago, well, I don't remember how old you were. You were not much more than a kid. You might have been 11, 12 or something like that. And I was invited to a party, but it was a very important party. And I had to leave Samantha with my sister. So I drove 2-hour drive. I drove to my sister's, dropped my daughter off, and was just about to head out to the party when
I said, Mom, I really don't think you should go. I can see you. I have a vision of seeing you stranded, broken down at a traffic light. Please don't go. I really don't want you to go. So Mum said, don't be silly, I'm in a rush, blah, blah, blah.
I was late.
At the time, she didn't have my aunt's telephone number, or so for some reason, I made a point of saying, take Auntie Madeline's telephone number, because if you break down, you're going to need it. When you break down, you're going to need it, and you're going to need to call us. So because I made such a big fuss of you must have the telephone number, etc., you took the telephone number
And ignored rushing out, needing to get to this party, completely ignored. I can't deal with it. You know how it is when you're in a rush and you need to get somewhere. And I had to get all the way from my sister's house, all the way across the city of Leicester, all the way across in rush hour traffic, I might add, to my friend's house that was at the other side of the city. So, of course, you know what's going to happen next, don't you? You know the result of this story is that I'm driving through the city and I'm now in rush hour traffic, and I come to a traffic light and I suddenly feel a rush of hot water on my foot or around my foot, something broke. And yes, I was broken down at the traffic light in the middle of the city with rush hour traffic and cars honking, and the car wouldn't go anywhere. I mean, it just got stuck. It's one of those times I have to say my daughter was absolutely right. But
one of those times.
One of those times. You've been right many times. Anyway, can you describe, you maybe can't remember exactly, but when you were telling the story, you said you had a vision. How
I
does
think
that...
I just had an almost, and this is how it happens. For me, I have this knowing. It's almost a vision in your mind, but it's not super clear. It's just a sort of a picture, but it's almost more just like a knowing. You know something is going to happen or is a certain way.
Right. And so, of course, I ended up, other motorists pushed my car to the side of the road. Nobody offered to help me. Across the road from where I broke down, there was a telephone box. So I went across the telephone box, and a whole bunch of Hare Krishnas started chanting around the phone box, around and around. They didn't help me either. Nobody asked me if I needed help with the car. Anyway, I did manage to get out of it. The car did manage to get fixed, but it taught me a very great lesson. I better pay attention. If my daughter sees something or knows something, which she so often does, I better pay attention. I better listen. So that's one. That's a number one story. Do you want to tell the story about the hairdryer? Tell the story about the hairdryer.
So how old was I?
15, 16.
I was about 15, and minding my own business, fast asleep in bed,
Sound asleep.
completely oblivious to the world, and I woke up to the hairdryer. I would often leave the hairdryer on the floor in my bedroom, whatever. And so the hairdryer was on the floor in my bedroom, and I woke up to the hairdryer in, I don't know, 1 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the
2
morning,
o'clock in the morning.
blasting in my bedroom. Completely jumped me out of my sleep. I jumped out of bed, screamed. Why was the hairdryer going off in my bedroom?
In the middle of the
In
night.
the middle of the night. Screamed. Did I run into you or I?
You shouted.
I shouted. Mum came flying in. There's the hairdryer going crazy on the floor, rattling away. But then when we looked, it actually was not plugged into the wall. It was
This is when we go.
dun, 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 dun. So, no electricity was getting to it. It was just on the floor.
But what Samantha didn't know was that it was one of those times, one of those tough times that I was having. And I was saying to the spirit world, and I was saying to Gregel, and I was praying to God, I just want a sign. Just give me a sign that I'm supposed to do this stuff. Just show me, give me a sign that I'm supposed to keep going with this. And so the hairdryer was my sign. Unfortunately, it woke Samantha up out of a deep sleep, and we could not figure out. I mean, it was only when I picked the hairdryer up and the cord was dangling. It was only then we realised that there was no power coming to it. So that was definitely my sign. It scared the bejesus out of you, didn't it? It scared the pants off of my daughter. She was trembling for ages and ages. And talking about being scared with these experiences, because we're only giving you a little tiny thumbnail of what used to happen on regular, not daily necessarily, but regular occurrences of things that would happen in our house and things that would happen to you. And I've not even gotten started on what used to happen to me, or both of us together. Anyway, would you like to tell the story of the bed? Now this is another.
Oh yeah, yes. Yeah.
Okay, right. Go ahead.
How old? Again, I never know how old I was for these things. How old was I?
You might have been 11 or 12 or something like that.
Maybe I was younger.
Oh yes, oh sorry, I was thinking of the other story we're going to tell. Sorry, I'm ahead of myself. Yeah, anywhere from ages, well, it went on for ages, so anywhere from the age of maybe 5 or 6, yeah, to, well, 11, 12, 13, 14, yeah, on and off throughout all of that period of your life, yeah. But especially when you were little, when you were 5, 6, 7 years old.
So I
would put you to bed.
Mum would put me to bed, we'd do bedtime story, all that good stuff. And then I would just be sort of closing my eyes, really trying to, hunker down and go to sleep, and my bed would start to shake.
Not just a little bit.
A lot.
It wouldn't be like a little tremble. It would be a serious, hard shaking of the bed, wouldn't it?
Yeah. And it used to freak me out.
And I would hear, Mum.
I mean, I think the first few times it probably really, really freaked me out, and then I just sort of, I learned that it was just something that happened. Not to say that it didn't upset me and freak me out, but at a certain stage, I remember just sort of calling you, Mom, it's happening again. Scared, but not completely,
By this time,
terrified.
You were older and you got used to it. But there were times when I would put her to bed, and we did all that good bedtime story stuff, right? And because I'm a wonderful mother. Anyway, and I wouldn't even get more than halfway down the stairs, and she would call out, "Mum, Mum," and be crying, and there were, I'm going to say, a few times when I would be, as I say, barely even halfway down the stairs, when I would run back up, and I would feel, because it had started the minute I'd left the room, and I would feel the bed shaking. So it wasn't just something that Samantha was experiencing, it was something that we both experienced. And I do remember, after I think the second or third time that it happened, I remember really shouting at them, "You scare my daughter, I'm done. We're not playing. I'm not going to play. I'm not going to do this. Whatever it is you want me to do, I'm happy to do it. But if you're going to scare Samantha, that's not going to happen." And it stopped for a while after that. But then every now and again it would happen. And I think this is why I think it's really important, and I will get around to doing this at some point. I think it's really important to write a book helping parents and helping kids, helping parents to help their children, because I know there are many of you out there who have children who have their own experiences. And what do you do? How do you help your children to understand that this is normal, this is natural? You might be thinking, well, why were they shaking the bed? Why were they, terrifying her? First of all, I think we have to understand that the spirit world is not about terrifying us, but it's about, hey, we're here. Hey, we've come to play. Maybe Samantha had friends in the spirit world. Maybe there were people who wanted to get to know her, who wanted to say hello to her, and they thought that if they got her attention, that's what would happen. So the shaking of the bed was simply a, hey, can you talk to us? Can you pay attention to us? They didn't realize until I had to point it out. Okay, there are other ways to connect. You don't have to scare the pants off of me to do it. So, I mean, that went on, and you did get used to it, right? You did, in the end, learn how to deal with it. And I think that, do you think, I'm going to ask you, I know the answer to this, but for everybody listening, do you think that having a mother who was, mind you, if you hadn't had a mother who was psychic, it might not have happened anyway, but having a mother as weird as I am, do you think it did help you to understand and come to terms with the spirit world and all of that stuff?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, to me, it just became a natural part of growing up.
Yeah.
I always explain, it's like if your father's or your mother's a doctor, or, I don't know, a painter. If you've got paintings everywhere in the house, it's normal. If your parent is off, in the middle of the night doing a surgery or emergency or something like that, it's normal to experience that, but it's not, it's not everybody's experience of growing up.
I think we should tell the story, and this might be the final one we'll tell today. I think we should tell the story of you and your boyfriend, Peter. Do you want to start with that? Yeah.
So, I was 20-ish, and I had this wonderful boyfriend, but I had broken up with him.
That's a whole other story.
I had broken up with him, but soon after I had broken up with him, I found out that he had been been attacked, and had seriously been attacked. Was in the intensive care, had a broken jaw, broken ribs. I mean, really significant injuries. And so we dated for a couple of years, and so I was, very upset, and so I called Mum and said, I'm going to go see him. I need to go make sure he's okay. I need to go see him. He's just out of the intensive care. He's called me. He had he had his mouth wired together.
So, no, I'm just,
Oh.
so she called me and to say that this had happened and she needed to go to the hospital to go see him.
He wasn't in hospital, he was at home.
So she needed to go see him. It was now at home. So anyway, I didn't get it wrong. Anyway, so as she's telling me this, I had a vision, very clear. I saw, and Samantha had at the time a very distinctive car, which she hated, but it got her around. It was bright yellow.
It was a Lada.
It was. They won't know. Anyway, it was an ugly Russian car or whatever it was. But let me tell you, had she not been in that car, it would have been really serious. So I had a vision of her skidding and the car plummeting down into a ditch. What to say to her now? I mean, I could have said, you can't go because this is what I'm seeing. Would she have listened to me? No, she absolutely would not have listened to me. And then you have this sort of, you're sort of walking a fine line. If you tell someone that something's going to happen, and then it happens, did it happen because they were worried that it was going to happen? Therefore, they weren't paying enough attention. Therefore, they skidded off the road. So it was a hard call for me. So I said to her, well, if you go, I want you to be really, really careful. I want you to take someone with you. But I want you to drive as carefully and as slowly as you possibly can. Now, saying that to her, she knew at 20 years old, she knew that I'd seen something. So she said to me, what have you seen? And I said, just be ultra careful, be extra careful. Go.
So I begged my girlfriend to go with me because I really needed, I needed to go see this guy and make sure he was okay. So we got in the car and headed down, and the route to his house was through lots of windy back country roads. I think it was like at least an hour's drive, and then of course all of a sudden.
And the bottom line,
I skidded off the road into a ditch.
You skidded on some oil, I think, in the road.
Yeah.
And ended up in a ditch. The bottom of the car came up, the top of the car came down, right? It was like it just went concertina like that. You did manage to get out, both of you, didn't you?
We both got out.
Crawled out, I think.
And actually, there was a little weird bit that I don't know if you know this. My friend, the seatbelt wasn't working, and I kept telling her to put a seatbelt on, and she couldn't get it clipped. So I actually stopped not long before we crashed for her to.
Put the seatbelt.
We need to figure out your seatbelt, and we managed to figure out and get the seatbelt working. Luckily, just before we crashed.
Otherwise, she could have been severely hurt.
Yeah.
So that is that business of paying attention to the seatbelt, paying attention to your feelings. That's really important, and that's where your intuition comes in, and that's where that intuitive nature comes into things, where you should always, always, always listen to that little voice in your head, or listen to that intuition that you have, or as Samantha put it, that knowing, that sense of knowing that something needs to be done, and you should always, always pay attention to it. So we have a couple of other stories, but I don't think we're going to have time for those and questions as well. We've got actually a whole load of stories, but so Samantha, if you can succinctly, well, we want to give people time to make comments and have questions and things. So if you could succinctly, just briefly tell people, what is it like to have, never mind that I'm a great mother and all that, forget that. What is it like, because I am actually, what is it like to grow up in an environment where to most other people weird things happen, things that are normal to us but weird to everybody else. Can you sort of explain, briefly, what it's like to have to grow up in that environment? I mean, would you choose to do it? Would you choose to have a normal existence, or would you choose this, or what? So, over to you.
I mean, for me, it is normal. So that's the weirdest thing. For me, my childhood and all of this crazy stuff that Mum does, it has just been completely normal to me. I mean, sometimes it's frustrating.
In what way?
Well, I mean, briefly. Because sometimes I want the answer to certain things, and she either won't give me sometimes. She either won't give me the answer, or you're not good at sort of you and I sometimes because you're too close to
too close to see. Yeah.
So so sometimes that's frustrating, but it's also amazing, and I've had incredible experiences, and I feel that I have all this incredible knowledge and extra otherworldly advice, and
that reminds me, what is it, because I know some people will ask you, what is it like for you as a mother with Reese and sort of having, because he has a weird grandmother as well, remember? Is it helpful to you having the knowledge that you've gained? Is it helpful to you as a mother? Has it been helpful to you as a mother? Because you have insights into your son that many mothers don't have with their kids necessarily?
I mean, yeah, I think so, for sure. I mean, I think every mum, the thing is, I also think that every mum has that extra connection with their children that they don't necessarily have with anybody else.
Yeah.
So I think a parent-child relationship already comes with that extra sort of knowing, or that extra sort of insight and intuition.
Is it a comfort to you when something's going on with your son and you're not quite sure, because you always call me or come to me? Is it a comfort to you to know that you can do that?
Definitely.
And you do that, right? Would you wish that for other mothers? Would you wish that they had that?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I call you with issues with my friends sometimes. So, yeah.
So you would wish that other people had that access to that information, to that help and that guidance.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which leads me to saying that this is why you do what you do.
Right.
Because Samantha makes herself available to people to have that access. Because, although she is not psychic, she has those incredibly insightful and psychic moments. And this is what makes her so good as, I don't even know what you can call yourself. I hate to say life coach because it's so, everybody likes to use it. What would you actually, do you have a name for what you do? Because I know that life coach
I think the thing that people can grasp is probably life coach.
Life coach.
But
Yeah.
more of an intuitive, life coach coming from a spiritual sort of psychic teachings from you.
Yeah.
So it goes beyond that. It's a little bit more, a little bit more
powerful. Yeah. All right. So, you've had a few stories today. Wow. Lucky you and lucky me. And I won't say lucky you, even though I think she's incredibly lucky to have me. It's like, okay. All right. So we have told our stories. So now we always, every good story begins once upon a time, And every good story ends at the end. All right, Chris.
All right, Rose.
Any comments, any questions, anything going on in the chat room there?
Oh, absolutely. A lot happening in the chat room. We're going to start with Maggie for a question for you, Rosemary.
Okay.
Has Gray Eagle ever had to step in between Samantha or Reese to correct someone from getting your attention?
I don't quite understand the question.
I think this comment came about when you were talking about the bed shaking.
I still don't understand the
So
question.
has Gray Eagle ever had to step in to stop something that's happening to Samantha or Reese because someone was trying to get your attention?
No, great. Well, Grey Eagle's always there and always stepping in and out. He doesn't just, he's part of the family. Perhaps people don't understand that he's part of the family. So if there is anything that's going on, we both of us, don't we? We both look to him. Samantha looks to me. I look to Grey Eagle. I mean, it's all a part. It's like, you know, like with every family member, if something's going on, we look to each other to help each other. And Grey Eagle, of course, has the most amazing advice and the most, you know, is the most helpful, I think. Let's have another question or comment, Chris.
All right. This is from Mark. It's so grand to see mother and daughter collectively sharing stories. A question to Samantha. Would you say your gut instincts are 90 to 100% accurate? And when they are, do you act on them at all times, whether they are urgent or not? Do you have any examples?
Gosh.
I'll answer the first part for you.
Right.
Yes, I would say her gut instinct is pretty accurate. If we had the, you know, the accuracy dial, I would be leaning way far over to the right. But like everyone else, she does not always listen to her gut, to her instincts. Do you have a very brief example of that from Mark? Just saying.
Oh gosh. I think I'm really good at giving advice and insights and gut instinct and all of that for other people, but I don't follow it for myself. Probably most of the time. Certainly not.
Even when she asks for my advice, and Grey Eagle and I give her that advice, she still struggles to follow it, don't you?
Yes.
Because she is a stubborn, independent woman. Okay, let's have our next question.
Vicky says, I remember Lotta's, and it's nice to see you as a grown woman, Sam.
You remember, sorry, what?
The name of the car, didn't you say it was Lotta's? Ladas?
Yeah.
So Vicky remembers Lotta's.
Okay.
Right, they were horrible cars.
But safe.
It was like a tank.
But safe. As a mother, safe.
Bright yellow.
Chris, next question. Moving on. Here.
Tracy's saying, hi, Samantha and Rosemary. Is it intuition or the spirit world telling you when something is going to happen? As I also have this happen on a number of occasions.
Well, should I answer that? I would say that our intuition comes from within us. We are all souls. Remember, we're all souls having, you know, as Teilhard de Chardin said, we are spiritual beings having a human experience. So we have that spiritual knowledge within us. But also, we also have our angels, we have our loved ones, we have our family tapping us on the shoulder very often. So I think it's all of that. I think it's, you know, our own instincts and our own intuition. And when we combine our own instincts, this is when we talk about, you know, when I teach people to raise their level of consciousness, to raise their level of awareness. And because Samantha's been sort of had this all of her life, she's really had no choice, I think, but to
I think it's just by
automatically
osmosis. It's just kind of
exactly.
Yeah.
Her level of consciousness has been raised, and she's much more perhaps intuitive than most people because she's lived it. All of it's been her entire life. She's lived it. Having said that, don't think she hasn't fought it from time to time. Don't think she hasn't said, "I don't want to do what you do," from time to time for various reasons. But to answer the question, I think it's all of those things combined. Chris.
All right, Carolyn's saying, Samantha, does your bed shake anymore?
Oh, that's a good question.
I remember actually not recently, but about 10 years ago. When did 9/11 happen? Maybe 50. How many years ago was 9/11?
Around
the time of
10.
9/11. I was in New York, and I was I needed to get out of town, obviously, soon after, and so I went to stay with my agent at the time, who's was a family friend, and a couple of days over that time, my bed shook, and I kept hearing like whispering in my ear the whole weekend that I was there, which was a little freaky.
But you knew how to deal with it, right?
I was freaked out. I didn't really know how to deal with it at the time.
Okay.
No, I mean I did, but it'd been a while. It had been quite a while since anything like that had happened, and so it was a little shocking.
Carolyn had a second follow-on. Is your intuition working all the time? Meaning, are you always checking in with your intuition?
I mean, I don't think it's a case of checking in with it. I just think it's there. It's not checking in. It's just who you are and how you live, and it's a part of you. And
Okay. Sarah would like to know, Samantha, have you ever seen Gray Eagle?
no.
That's a quick answer there.
All right. Jennifer wants to know, how do I teach or encourage my daughter that is also very knowing to not be afraid of the unknown? I am also very intuitive, and so is she.
Do you want to say anything about that? How would you advise somebody who has gone through what you go through? How would you help Reese?
I mean, I think that you don't make it into a big deal. I think you don't dwell on it and sort of sit them down and say, tell me more, because then that makes it into a thing. It becomes, strange. But I think just in general conversation, when it's, as if you were asking about schoolwork or homework, you can kind of weave it in to conversations and to, and just talk about it, reassure them that it's a natural thing.
I do think that we have an advantage in that Samantha has grown up with this. It's a natural thing. And consequently, Reese has grown up with this, and it's a natural thing. I was not feeling very well the other day, and sort of went to take a nap. And when I came out, about maybe half an hour or so later, Reese came and he said to me, Mosey, do you feel any better? And I said, I do, darling, thank you. And he said, well, I gave you healing when you were in the bed. To him, it's a natural thing. He's learning to do it naturally. Nobody's asking him to do it. Nobody's saying to him, you need to give Mosey healing. Nobody's saying, I'm not saying to him, please, can you give me healing? Although occasionally I do, but on this particular occasion and on other occasions, he chooses to do it because it's natural for him to do it. He's 8 years old, and it's natural for him to just, and of course, over the years, I've shown him how to do it, and his mum has shown him how to do it, and it's just a natural thing. So as Samantha says, don't make a big deal. Talk about it as if it's natural, but also don't ignore it in the conversation either. Don't think your kids won't understand, because actually your kids will understand far more than you perhaps, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think children are so much more open to and you know,
Yeah.
in tune with all of
What
this,
is going
what
on,
is going
yeah.
on than adults are, because
Yeah.
I think adults sort of brush it off, or I didn't really see or hear, or
Well,
think
I think that as we get older, we don't want to. Perhaps we think it's easier to say it's our imagination than to actually, wonder if it is real. Okay, Chris.
Judith says, Samantha, it would be fascinating to read a book about your experiences growing up as the daughter of Rosemary Altea and where your life is now. Have you ever thought about writing a book?
Yes,
I have.
And she is a writer.
I am a writer. I have thought about it. I've written other things. I haven't written this.
We did write a book together.
We did.
What was it called then?
Angels in Training?
Angels in Training.
There you are. And so we did write a book together. But yes, I could not agree more. I think it would be fascinating if Samantha were to, write about what it's like, poor kid, what it's like to be the daughter of me, right? The good and the bad. She might want to wait until I'm dead to write it, because there will be repercussions. Just kidding.
But you'll
No,
still,
no.
but you'll still come back and torture me anyway.
So true, so true. You better get on and write it then. Start writing. There you are. Okay.
Sharon says, Rosemary and Samantha, you guys remind me so much of my mom and I. Beautiful relationship. Samantha, are you able to see people from the spirit world?
Sometimes. I certainly don't do what Mum does. But occasionally I do.
Like she had the flashes when she saw me broken down at the traffic lights. There's another story.
She's talking about people.
I know. There's another story that we might tell on another occasion about when she spoke to her silly grandpa. Do you remember that? You were only 5 or 6. Do you remember
The
Popeye
thing,
thing? Yeah. So we could tell that story. Samantha could tell. There's another story. So yes, and she has seen her grandfather. Mostly it's been your silly grandpa, hasn't it? She's seen her silly grandpa on numerous occasions. But other people occasionally, but not so much. And this is why we say that Samantha is not psychic, although she has psychic moments just like many other people do. If you are going to do this work as a psychic or spiritual medium, as I prefer, you can't, it can't be hit and miss. It's got to be on a daily level. There's a responsibility to doing this, and this is why Samantha has learned, I think, you've got to be responsible. If you can't do it, or you can only do it sometimes, then say so, because that's the responsible way to go, right? Definitely. Okay.
All right. A couple of other people had the similar question about had you seen anyone in the spirit world? So you just answered that for them. Samantha, I'll throw a question out there to you. Because I understand that you have a number of people, a number of friends, a number of acquaintances that have come to you over the years for your help and your guidance. Do you have any stories to share without mentioning names of ways that they walked away satisfied and grateful for your help?
Nothing specific that I can mention right now.
Yeah, because, and Janice, I think you need time to think about that. But many people over the years have come to Samantha for help, and as a mother, I can tell you that even though she doesn't solve your problems, she will help you to solve your problems. She will find ways that you can look at what's going on with you in a completely different way, or in a way that you haven't thought of. She is able to intuitively listen to somebody, listen to the way that they're handling a situation, and say, well, maybe you should try this way instead of the way that you're going. So okay.
And I also kind of pull from from resources from you too. I might use
Yes.
I might use one of your techniques, one of your,
Yeah.
you know, that kind of thing.
Yeah, some of my exercises. Well, they're not really mine. They're ours really, because as we try to say to everybody, this is something that has been, you know, if you're in a monastery and you're living with monks for however a year, 2 years, or whatever, you learn how to pray in the way perhaps that they pray, or they teach you how to think on a spiritual level. Remember, Samantha's had a lifetime of this, so it would be ridiculous to say that it hasn't rubbed off, because this has been her upbringing. This is, you know, sort of other people might feed their children Weetabix for breakfast. I feed my child Weetabix and a dose of spiritual something or another at the same time, and we don't even think about it. We're not even aware of it, because it's just a natural thing that we do. And the same also with Reese as well. I think this is the natural thing that we do.
And
Chris?
he's actually had many.
Oh, we could,
Yeah.
one day we should have him. In fact, yesterday, I don't know if I told you this, yesterday he said to me, Mosey, I can't join story time with you tomorrow, but please, 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 can I join story time next week? So I promised him absolutely, so that he's joining us. So you never know, he might tell you a story or two, but he has so many stories to tell also. It's a family thing, you know. Chris, let's keep going.
All right. One person said the live chat suddenly stopped. I'm not seeing that from anyone else. So
It's back, they just said.
yeah, there we go. So I don't have any new questions that are coming in, Rosemary.
Okay, well
but
then.
I would like to say, though, that from my perspective, working with you both over the years, I've noticed so many times where you and I will be talking about maybe a direction we want to go, and we want to get into some specifics. And the first thing you say is, I have to talk to Samantha about this. So the fact that you go to Samantha for advice, I think, is huge.
I did not know that, Chris. Interesting.
Oh,
Well,
yeah.
I think you do know that I do actually value Samantha's help, and I do value Samantha's advice. My one issue with Samantha, and I'm sure she has the same issue with me, is, right, because we're in such close proximity, and even when I'm not in New York, we're on the phone, we're FaceTiming at least 2 or 3 times every day. You go for, you ask for help and advice, but then, you know, she nags at me. Did you do that yet? I told you, you need to do that. You need to, and I'm sure that I do the same with her. So the problem with having someone in close proximity is that they can check up on you, which isn't always a good thing, right?
When I giving advice to you, I think it's a perfect thing. You need it.
Yes, but when I give advice to you, right, and then you're going against the advice I gave you, you don't like me to see that, do you? You
I have no idea what you're talking about. I follow every piece of advice to the letter.
She's not telling the truth, everybody. She's just not. She's not admitting to it. Anyway, so it can become tricky. If we are out of questions, that means that
I feel like we got more stuff.
Oh, okay. Do we have any more stuff going on? Because if you're not participating with us, we're not playing. You know that's the rule, right? So do we have any more questions? Anything else going on, Chris?
Well, Carol's just joining us late. I think she just got done feeding her horses, and she says, I don't know what we're talking about. So maybe a little recap for Carol.
No.
All right. Dean's on.
Carol, I'm so sorry that you missed it, but you need to go back. You can now find us on YouTube, or you can find us on Facebook or Twitter or wherever. You can find this same show. But my daughter Samantha is here with me, and she's talking about her experiences and what it is like, what it's been like growing up and living with someone like me, and we've been telling stories about her experience, some of her experiences. That's the recap. Do we have anything else going on, Chris?
Bridget says you're both both full of beautiful light. Thank you for sharing with us.
Well,
Judith,
Bridget, you're very welcome.
Judith says Reese is a little doll baby. It would be so fun to have him on with Grandma. And Maggie says, I just enjoy listening to you both.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. We enjoyed it too. Chris, we must be out of time. Are we out of time? No.
We're 10 minutes early.
Oh, well then. Are we sure nobody has any comments or questions or anything going on?
Sharon's asking you, the other day you mentioned, hold on, it just scrolled here. Where did she go? There it is. You mentioned that my mom was tapping you on the shoulder. I have been wondering if that means she appeared in your living room. Sorry if it's a silly question.
Sharon, it is not a silly question at all. Yes, of course. Yes, if somebody's tapping me on the shoulder, it means they're right here by my side, which shows me how important it was for her to let you know. You've got to get out there. You've got to, Sharon. Otherwise your mother's going to haunt me, and I'm not having that. I'm laughing. Of course, she's not going to haunt me, but yes, of course she wants you to know it's not that she's here with me, tapping me on the shoulder. She's tapping you on the shoulder. She's trying to say to you, I'm right here, I'm right by your side. So, please, you know what to do. You've been told what to do. Chris?
Eric wants to know, does Reese have or will have a different guide than Gray Eagle?
Oh, we're not into guides and such as most people are. Samantha, do you want to say anything to that? Have you ever thought of having a guide, or has there ever been any?
I think I have people in the spirit world that watch over me, that help me, and that guide me, but they're not spirit guides.
You would never consider
in that sort of sense of having a spirit guide.
No. So who would you consider perhaps the most prominent person in the spirit world who helps and guides you? Who would you consider to be?
My silly grandpa, right?
Yeah, I would definitely say that. Even as he's tapping you on the shoulder right now, I can see him on the other side of my daughter here. Very excited that she's doing this, I might tell you, because now he has a voice. So you won't be able to shut him up. So he's going to help you, as he always has done. Samantha was 6 years old when her grandpa died, my father. And my father was very stern and very strict with all of us. Really, really strict and stern with all of us. And even his grandchildren, except Samantha, for some reason or another.
Because I'm so cute.
Because you were his favourite. Because I was his favourite. You're his favourite. My mother had a parrot, and my father used to take, in the summertime, my father used to take the parrot out into the cage, onto the back lawn of the house. And you know this story, right? It was an ugly grey parrot. It was the ugliest thing you ever saw. But anyway, my father taught the parrot to say, Samantha Jane, Samantha Jane. And you'd walk through the garden gate and you'd hear the parrot, Samantha Jane, Samantha Jane. So my father was, as I've said, he was strict, but he adored Samantha. And Samantha used to suck her thumb. And so my father used to pretend to get out his pocket knife.
No, he used to go and get a giant pocket knife. He had a collection of these giant knives on the wall in a room, remember?
Yeah.
And he would get literally a knife this big, and come and pretend to cut my finger off.
If you don't stop sucking your thumb, I'm going to cut your thumb off. And of course, she'd be terrified, and I would try to make it right by saying, Grandpa is so silly. He's really being really, really silly. And it became a thing, but it also became a joke. And we call him Grandpa so silly, and we call him Silly Grandpa. So Samantha always would call him her Silly Grandpa. And even though you were only 6 when he passed, you have that very strong affinity with him, don't you?
Reese even knows him as Silly Grandpa.
Yeah. We always, when we're talking about his grandparents, actually, this is how Reese goes. He says, awful, horrible, silly grandma. That's my mother, because she was, and he refers to my father as silly grandpa, even though he's Reese's great grandpa. So everybody has someone, but we're not into, even though we have Grey Eagle, we're not into spirit guides in the same way that everybody else is. You have to remember that a spirit guide is a highly evolved spiritual being who only would work with people in this field, in this spiritual field, full time. So, so we need to sort of be careful about the way that we refer to people. So Samantha has a silly grandpa, right? So next question, Chris, if there are any more questions.
Christine says, hello, lovelies. A friend recently crossed over. I feel her when I visit her husband. Does she have anything to share today for me? Thank you.
No, we're almost out of time, unfortunately, so I'm afraid not. Chris?
Sandra says, Samantha is so cute, just like mom. What is Samantha's profession?
She's a life coach.
I do this. I'm also a professional writer as well, so
and you combine the two things.
Combine the two.
So I think
if you do actually thinking about this, if you do want to learn more about Samantha or to know more about Samantha, please subscribe. If you subscribe, it doesn't cost you anything to subscribe, but you will receive a newsletter, which I do believe, Chris, is going out tomorrow or the next day.
It'll be going out this week, soon as August hits.
Yes. So every month you will receive a newsletter, and in the newsletter this month, we're talking about Samantha, about what she's doing, because as I've said, she's joining our team. So you'll learn all about Samantha. You'll learn all about what she does and a little bit about how she does it and what her expertise is in. So please, and you also, if you subscribe, you get a newsletter which tells you what we're going to be doing, what we're up to. For instance, we are doing another webinar on the 21st of August. Which is connecting with people in the spirit world. As we've done, we did one a couple of weeks ago. We're trying to do one every month to 6 weeks, just simply connecting with the spirit world. But when I go back to Florida in September, we'll be doing other webinars dealing with all sorts of things, teaching you how to raise your level of consciousness, teaching those of you who would like to learn more about healing, or maybe to even develop your own healing abilities. We're going to be doing webinars on all of these things and more. So subscribe. Go to our website, rosemaryaltea.com, because that way you'll get information on what we are planning on doing. And as I've said, again, if you want to know more about Samantha and what she'll be doing with us in our team, working with our team, go to subscribe, get the newsletter.
Something on the website.
Go to the website. So there's something on the website as well. Samantha also does our website for us, or oversees the website for us too. So, Chris, is there anything else?
No, Sharon's saying she's so excited for the upcoming webinar. We have put the links in the chat room for not only the webinar, but how to reach us.
Great.
And we're right at time.
Did you? Is there a link to YouTube? I know some people have found it difficult to find the YouTube channel. There is a YouTube channel, Rosemary Altea. So, just go to YouTube, write it in. You'll find on that YouTube, you will find all kinds of things. There is, yes, believe it or not, there is a cooking show. There is a series of shows which are called Healing Hands Around the World. If you want to know about how to give yourself healing or how to give other people healing, go there, Healing Hands Around the World. There are lots of different things, Larry King, Lisa Gibbons, lots of things like that going on. And of course, you can access all of our shows on YouTube. So please, go to the YouTube channel. Anything else, Chris?
No, I think we've covered it all, Rosemary.
That's it then. Well, all right then. So, again, it is Saturday morning. It's a glorious day here in New York City. Samantha and I went to the beach yesterday. We took Reese with us to the beach. Today, Reese is off to the beach again with his father, and Samantha and I. What are we doing?
Chilling out.
We're chilling out in the garden. It's a beautiful day. We have beautiful blooms everywhere. The garden is absolutely fantastic, and we're also having a friend of ours who's coming for lunch. So that's what we're doing the rest of the day. In the meantime, thank you all for joining us. Chris, thank you so much for all that you do, keeping us going, keeping us on track. I'd like to say thank you to Great Eagle also. And especially, I would like to say thank you to my daughter for coming in and joining us on this show today. This is the first time that she's done it. It will not be the last. We shall have her on again. And we'll be maybe doing one or two off the cuffs with her too. So, all right. So watch for us. Keep us in your mind. We should be popping in and out. You never know when. We should be definitely back here next Thursday. Next Thursday morning at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time for our regular Thursday show. And we should be back here next Saturday with another story time. Maybe I will be able to encourage Reese to tell us a story or three as well. Or you might be too shy, just want to pop in and listen to what we're going to be talking about. In the meantime, please, all of you, thank you again so very much for joining us. You've been absolutely fabulous. We've loved the questions. We've loved the comments. Please, all of you, have a very wonderful rest of the day. Have a very blessed rest of the day and have a very blessed weekend, everybody. Bye-bye.